It's the Get Psyched YouTube channel. Today's video is a little different because it's on cricket care. I decided to do this video because just a few weeks ago when I first got Angel, my leopard gecko, I had no idea how to care for crickets. I struggled quite a lot with finding out how to do that and with coming up with the best solutions for some of the problems I was running into, so I just thought I'd make a short video on what I've learned about handling crickets just in case you have the same questions I had when I went Googling this stuff. I just want to say that what I keep them in, I've completely changed since I first got them. When I first got the crickets, I didn't really know anything about cricket care and how I was going to do this daily feeding thing with Angel because I knew that he required a good amount of crickets. When he was just a little baby, he didn't eat quite as many crickets as he does now. He ate about half the amount. I had no idea exactly how many to keep though, because I had no idea how much he ate when I first got him. So a safe number I came up with was 50. I wanted to get 50 little crickets for Angel, and like I said, he's a baby, so he needed very small crickets. He needed the smallest size, and I didn't think about the fact that crickets can fit into holes much smaller than them. There's a fun fact that I didn't know. So be careful what you put them in, because if the holes are too big, which to us might look nice and small, it could be the perfect size for a little cricket to get out of. But anyways, I kept them in this very small container that was way too small for how many were in there. Just way too small in general, honestly. Horror story. I had the crickets in this little container, and I probably have about 40 in them, way more than that belonged in them. And I put them in another container just so that they'd be like double contained. But they ended up getting out of that container and the other one. And I had like woken up one morning and there were just crickets. There were some on my wall, there were some on the floor. I even found some on my bed and in the bathtub. And I live in a little apartment with 4 separate rooms, and my room was just totally covered in crickets. I had to like go around, and I caught about 20 something of them, but I knew there still had to have been some maybe lurking around. By the time I noticed, like I took the container outside on the porch and like a few crickets escaped after that, but I was able to contain it, but I did not feel comfortable staying in my room for a few days, so I ended up staying in the living room for quite a while and just doing my work out there. It was horrible. So I ended up doing research that led me to learn the stuff I learned in this video. Like, you definitely don't need to go to like PetSmart or anything and buy a little cricket keeper. I think it's way better to DIY make your own cricket keeper. And a lot of people do this the same way I did. I'll put a picture of what I use as a cricket keeper now. It's just basically, you can go to Walmart or any generic place and just find a plastic tub and use that as a cricket keeper. All you have to do is you have to put some kind of ventilation in the top. Most people just cut out the top like I did. I cut a nice big square out of it, and I used this plasticky, meshy stuff I found. I know there's different kinds of mesh and stuff you can use on the top to ventilate it. I would say do more research into that yourself if you're interested, because I don't know exactly what kind of meshes they can eat through and what's better to use or safer to use, because the way that mine works, and this is really fortunate, the container, the inside's really smooth, and I recommend that if you're going to get a container like this, you get one with very smooth insides, because if it's a little bit rough textured, the crickets can likely climb that texture, and so they'll be able to get to the top. But because mine is so slick, the crickets can't climb it, and therefore they don't even get to the top. So it doesn't really matter that I use this thing for ventilation, although I'm pretty sure it's safe because it's just plastic like the container. They can't try and eat through it or anything because they can't get up there towards it, which is really nice because I have not had a single problem with escaping crickets since getting this container, which is why I think doing a container like this is way better than getting one of those little ones you can get from the pet store. So if you are looking for a way to contain your crickets, and if you're looking to put more in, like to house more crickets at once, and you want to do the safest thing for them, definitely get a bigger container like I did from like Walmart or something and make it yourself. Now, as far as other cricket care things, you do have to dust crickets depending on the animal you have. Because I have a leopard gecko, I dust him in calcium, and I do a multivitamin dust. So it just depends. This isn't really a gecko feeding video, but crickets do need to be dusted for certain reptiles. And gut loading is really important. Or it took a little time for me to get used to it and to find more stuff to use. But basically, gut loading is when you just feed your crickets good food so that it can put that good stuff into your animal. So what I use for gut loading is I use a lot of oranges. I think oranges are a pretty good one. Carrots. Raw carrot, I just kind of slice it with a peeler and give them the slices and little dices of it so that they have both to go after. I give them romaine lettuce, collard greens. You know, they like dark greens and stuff, so kale is good too. I like to give them variety, so I'll usually have like carrots, some kind of green and orange in there. And I use Flucker's Cricket Cube. It's supposed to be like an all-in-one eating and water solution, but I also add fresh food in there too because I think that it's good not just to give them that Flucker stuff, but to give them real natural food so that they can give back that stuff to your animal. The cartons are very important for cricket health just because crickets like to be able to move around and to hide and to have just space so that they don't go insane, especially if you're housing a lot of crickets together. They will not do kindly to not having space. They'll end up dying more. That's something I've noticed. Crickets can die fast depending on just different things. I've noticed that if I buy too many at once, a lot of them will tend to die. If they don't have enough variety in their food, like I've noticed that since I started putting more variety food together for the crickets, they live longer. So I don't know if that helps any, but it's helped my crickets. Having the cartons and the toilet paper roll in there really helps. That's another thing. Toilet paper rolls, fantastic. Not just using cartons, but the toilet paper rolls are super helpful because you can literally just wait for some crickets to go in there and then you can pour them into whatever you're using to dust them with, and they're just easy to catch that way. And as far as like where I get my cartons and all that, because I have a lot of cartons and toilet paper rolls. For toilet paper rolls, I just save my toilet paper rolls and I ask friends to save them. I'm just like, hey, when you run out of toilet paper, can I have the roll? And so I've acquired a lot of those. And then for cartons, places like Tractor Supply Co. or anywhere that's going to sell farming stuff or chicken stuff, they'll tend to have the cartons that you're looking for. Make sure that they're paper cartons though. You don't want to use any kind of styrofoam carton. It's not good for the cricket to eat. There's one other thing that I have, and this is just something that I've noticed helps a lot for me. So I have a tiny container that I also have holes in the top, and this is called temporary cricket keeper. It's usually for cleaning. Like if I'm cleaning the crickets home and there's still a few crickets left, I'll put them in the temporary cricket keeper. I'll just put a little bit of carton in there, some food, and then I'll clean it out and then move them back in. Yeah, anything like that. I think having a temporary cricket keeper is good because you're going to have to clean out their home. I clean it out about once a week when I get new crickets. So I just clean it out about once a week when I get new crickets. And it makes it easier when you have that little container there. And I also have this little cap that I use that I put their food and stuff on at the end of the night so I can throw it away and put fresh food in. You don't have to change the food like every night, but you should check the food very frequently. I try to check it at least twice a day to make sure that nothing looks like it's going to start rotting or getting mold on it soon. I did once leave a carrot in there and I forgot to check it the night before, and the next morning there was some mold on it because the carrot I was using, it wasn't a raw carrot, it was like from a can, and it was way too moist, so it built mold really quickly. So that's something you want to check on. Be careful if you put something that's like moist in there, you don't want it to grow mold. So try and check the food quite frequently and change the food every day or two if you can. That's what I like to do because it keeps it nice and fresh. And when I clean the container, like I said, I do it about once a week when I get new crickets. All I do is take everything out of it, all the old food, the old cartons. I'll put any live crickets into the temporary container while I clean it if I have any live crickets left. And then I just basically take white distilled vinegar mixed with half part water, take some napkins. I put some gloves on so I don't have to touch it. And then I wipe it down with paper towels, clean all the gunk out of it. I usually wipe it down twice with the solution and then try and mop up all of the stuff with a clean paper towel. And then I just kind of let it air dry for a bit. I like to do this like the day before I get new crickets so that the house has plenty of time to settle on its own. It's not really necessary, but I just like that. That's basically the basics of keeping crickets and housing them. I'm not an expert on the matter. I just thought I'd make this video, like I said, for anyone who's very new to it like me and has no idea what they're doing. It's not too bad. Once you get used to it, keeping the crickets isn't a big deal. If you have the right container, you don't have to worry about them getting out. And once you learn how to gut load them properly, they tend to live long and they seem very healthy. And I even see them grow sometimes. Like I said, Angel eats the baby ones. And so if I get them, by the end of the week, they're usually a little bigger. So be careful, I guess, if you have a baby. Angel's big enough now that he can eat the medium-sized ones. But like I said, how long you keep them, how many you get at a time, you're just going to have to adapt that to your particular gecko or animal, assuming it's not a gecko. But yeah, that's all the advice I have. Oh, and another thing, if your place is really cold, it is worth noting that crickets don't like that. So some people put heating on their crickets. My apartment is not cold by any means. It's very neutral temperatured, so I see that they're fine. But it'd be a whole nother story if you were trying to breed them or keeping them for much longer, I guess. That's all my tips on cricket keeping. If you have any comments or suggestions or anything you want to say, let me know below. If there's anything in this video that you think maybe isn't totally right, definitely let me know. Like I said, I'm still pretty new to this. And if you have any particular things that you've tried for crickets that's worked best for you, let me know. And if there's any more food variety that I should try with my crickets, also let me know, because I'd love to know. I'm thinking of switching to dubia roaches soon, so I'm trying to learn about dubia care. So, if you have any information on that either, I would love to know. So thank you so much for watching, and like, comment, subscribe if you were interested in the topic. Angel says hello. Peace. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're interested.